said, nope, that's a new one to me. And so he sends me some references and I start to dig in and I'm like, okay, this is a big deal. And had an invitation to go work with this company called Longevity Labs. And they were founded by perhaps the leading researcher in spermidine worldwide, Dr. Frank Medeo. If you hear someone talking about spermidine research, they're probably talking about Frank's research. And when I had a chance to join a company that is founded in great science, that was a really big deal to me. And so jump in and start to dive down this rabbit hole of understanding spermidine. And it's been amazing. Spermidine, listen, they gave a Nobel Prize in 2016 to the Japanese researcher that really explained autophagy. And that was a big moment in the longevity research scene. And then you go another step in the work that Dr. Medeo's done, looking at spermidine's impact on autophagy, and continues. I mean, we've got a paper coming out soon that spermidine is critical. We used to refer to it as a calorie restriction mimetic. It mimics fasting. Well, there's some research now that says it's more than a mimetic. It is a key molecule in the autophagy pathway. And so, where we used to think you add spermidine, it increases autophagy through the mimicking process. No, when you add spermidine, you're increasing autophagy because the entire autophagy mechanism is working better. And this is critical. So this is an important distinction.
Can I ask you to review, because there might be some people listening to this not knowing what autophagy is. This might be the first time they've heard it. So maybe explain, why is autophagy so important to longevity?
Well, as someone who has worked in the exercise business since the mid 80s, okay, fitness, listen, I'm comfortable saying fitness and nutrition have failed. People are heavier than they've ever been. They're less fit than they've ever been. They're less healthy than they've ever been. And we've had this multi-billion-dollar market working towards trying to get people. But you ask 99 out of 100 people that walk into a gym or walk in to talk to a health professional what their goal is, they'll usually refer to losing weight, because that's the message they hear. Hey, as you lose weight, you get healthier. Well, I think there's an important distinction there. As you engage in the practices that eventually lead to weight loss is correlational. It's not causal. So as I exercise more, I trigger autophagy, which leads to improved health. Along the way, if I lose weight, great, I'm happy about that. But you don't have to lose weight to get healthier. You get healthier when you engage in the practices that stimulate autophagy. When we look at the diseases that take us out, before we started recording, we were talking about parenting our children. I've got a daughter, and getting our kids through childhood and early adulthood, they need to listen to what their mom says. Wear your helmet when you ride your bike. Don't drive your car crazy. Put your phone down. Safety is what takes kids out. But the thing that will start to take us out, I turned 60 on my last birthday. And I'm now in that part of my life where longevity winds up being an issue. And the thing I have to worry about being taken out is heart disease, decreased immunity, problems with with dementia and cognitive performance. These are all inflammatory related diseases. And the important part is autophagy is the opposite of inflammation. As I raise autophagy, inflammation will go down. If inflammation's going up, it's probably an autophagy mitigated problem that we can solve with movement. We can solve with nutrient dense foods. Part of that solution is good sleep. being able to make sure that we have that lean. And then finally, I call it the 4 rocks in my jar of longevity. My 4 rocks are movement, nutrient dense food, sleep, and light. You see a light panel over my shoulder,
Yeah.
a red light, near infrared light. I think light is a nutrient. And you're in Toronto. I used to live in Ohio. We evolved to get light on our skins. There's processes that kick in there at a mitochondrial level. Everyone will say, "Oh, I'm going to get some vitamin D." Well, there's so much more than that. Okay, to make a short story long, autophagy, that intracellular cleaning process that it's typically associated with fasting. It's in the cell all the time. It's either upregulated or downregulated. It's not on or off. That's an important perspective. But we know that when we fast, we upregulate autophagy. So we know that when we stop bringing in nutrients, the cell says, "Hey, nothing's coming in. We still want to function. Let's clean up what's in us." So the cell starts to clean up those long-lived proteins and the old organelles. That's the autophagy is the benefit of exercise. Autophagy is the benefit of fasting. Autophagy is the benefit of good quality sleep. Improved autophagy and mitochondrial performance is the benefit of light therapy. So it all goes back towards this autophagy pathway, which should be chapter 2 of Exercise 101, not fat loss. And I think this is really important to get people's perspective on. You can get healthier. First of all, throw the damn scale away, because it'll lie to you. You need indicators that are trusted indicators. And there's lots of ways to look at this, but again, to make our short story way too long, autophagy is that process of intracellular cleaning, which eventually leads to a drop in inflammation and leads to improved cardiovascular performance and better blood pressure. And it leads to improved immune response. It leads to improved cognitive performance. All of those are associated with autophagy by lowering inflammation.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Now that we know what autophagy is, some people will say, "Well, why do I have to take spermidine? Can't I just eat it? And where can I get it? What foods?"
Listen, if you live in a blue zone, you probably can just eat your food that's grown naturally around you, and you'll probably get enough spermidine. If you live in an environment where you're raising your own food and you're raising nutrient-dense food, you're probably okay. But if you're like the rest of us, that we get our food from a grocery store that comes from an industrial growing machine, it's not nutrient dense. And now that we understand the role of spermidine, we've known about this molecule for hundreds of years. We just didn't know what it did. They've looked at it. Where's it at? What's it do? Well, when we look at it in the autophagy pathway, boom, we now have a target. And we have a study coming out soon that if you take a mouse and you fast it, you get autophagy. If you take a spermidine knockout mouse and fast it, you get nothing. So it's not. We used to refer to spermidine as a mimetic, a calorie restriction mimetic. We're now starting to look at this as a key molecule in the autophagy pathway. As spermidine levels drop, autophagy levels drop because the machine can't run. And that's where we start to get a look at this process and why it's so important.
Okay, but we can still get it from some foods like shiitake mushrooms, natto. Like there are some foods that carry more spermidine than others, right?
I don't disagree with that statement. Here's your challenge, though. We extract our spermidine from wheat germ in Europe. Now, to put this in perspective, we can't find wheat in the United States that's spermidine rich enough for us to extract spermidine from. Okay, so depending on your food source, I don't know where your shiitake mushrooms are coming from. You know what? If you've got a great growing situation, again, if it's your own garden and you're growing nutrient dense food, good on you.
Right.
I'm not sure, and this is the challenge when you go in. If I go grab a jar of wheat germ off the shelf at the grocery store, if it's made from wheat in the United States, it doesn't have spermidine in it. It's not rich enough. It's that micronutrient that's just not there. You know, we can go get citrus fruit that's grown industrially, and it doesn't have high vitamin C. Now, if we go find citrus fruit that's grown in a more normal environment and not industrially produced, again, anytime that you introduce this industrial production where you get higher volumes, there's obviously a drop in nutrient levels. Natto, you know, great. I mean, I think the fermentation process probably is a big deal. I can't choke that stuff down.
I won't even try. I've looked at it, I've seen it, I'm like, yeah, no,
not going there.
no.
And listen, if you grew up in a culture where that's part of it, you know what, that's fine.
Sure.
So to go back and answer your question, if you're raising your food and it's nutrient dense, you may be in a better position. That's what we see from blue zones. People who live in blue zones have high spermidine diets and are largely self-grown natural environments. Great reason to put a garden in your backyard. But right now, we believe spermidine will achieve a central nutrient status, meaning that we've already applied for medical essential nutrient status for anyone 45 years and older. We believe the literature shows that you can't manipulate your diet, the standard American diet. You cannot manipulate it to become spermidine rich. The same way we have essential nutrients like vitamin D, vitamins, all the the minerals. We think spermidine is going to fall into that category at some point in time.
Okay, so let me ask you this: the wheat germ.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that most of the spermidine sources and supplements come from wheat germ.
Wheat germ, rice hulls, they're different places, but yes.
But what about GMOs? Does that affect the quality of the wheat germ? I guess that's why the United States one is no good, right?
That's a great question, isn't it? Do you want a supplement that's full of glyphosate, right?
No, thank you.
And that's what you get. Listen, the European governing bodies are much stricter than the Americans, and I can only assume the Canadians. I mean, you have as much Monsanto as we do.
We do, Don. We do.
So I think that's part of the challenge. The Europeans are ahead of us on this.
Yes, they are.
And so that's where we're getting ours from. Now, buyer beware. I think it's important when you're making a spermidine supplement choice. Right now, there are a lot of synthetic spermidine products coming on the market, many of them.
How do we know then, Don? How do we know? Just so that people out there, I mean, I could see it. It's going to be a hot market. So we want to make sure that we're taking quality, real spermidine.
You want to ask about that. Is it a whole plant extract?
Okay.
Is it a whole? Now, when you take the product from Spermidine Life, we have our supplement is called Celvio. And Celvio is a whole plant extract from wheat germ. So when you first of all, there's been no human research done on synthetic spermidine, none. Okay. So as you start to jack yourself up, you don't know what you're getting into. And I'm not saying you're going to have problems. I'm just saying we don't know. Ultimately, we've tested safety on our product to 20 milligrams a day. Our supplements are 2, 3, 6 milligrams a day. We've been approved by the European Union to sell up to 12 milligrams a day. We've tested safety to 20, and we expect it to be safer beyond that. It's wheat germ. It's a wheat germ extract, right? So, it's a pretty safe place to be. We test safety in this. We test safety in humans. Right now, Spermidine Life, I believe, is the only spermidine extract that's been used in human clinical trials. So that's listen, I'm proud to represent a company that uses great science and is based in great, with great scientists. So you're looking for that natural wheat germ extract. That's what you're looking for. They should be able to provide you test results. Every batch of the product we sell is tested. So if you get one of our bottles, you look on the bottom, we can show you the test results from those batches. We measure everything 3 times: wheat germ coming in, wheat germ in the process, and Salvio going out. And so you got to work with a company that is that committed.
Okay,
So
what if you're celiac or gluten sensitive? Can you take your product?
you got to be careful.
Okay.
We have celiac patients using our product. So I'll start with that.
Yeah.
But we also have clients who have said, you know what, I still get a reaction. So our advice is, if you are celiac or if you're extremely gluten intolerant, start slow. Take a capsule, break it up into a shake, work your way up into it. But one of the doctors we work with, Dr. Elizabeth Yurth, has identified the fact that the improved gut mobility and the tightening of the joints in the gut from leaky gut by lowering the inflammation in the gut many times is resolved with the spermidine supplementation. So it's not clear. Number one, be careful. And we'll, listen, our company will work with you. If you purchase our product and it doesn't work out, we'll refund you. And that's important.
Yes, I've heard that there are some people who can still take it even with pretty severe gluten
We've seen it,
intolerance.
but it's not. But we don't have everybody. I don't want to listen. My wife has celiacs, and I've held her hair back way too many times to to say, oh, anybody can take this. You've got to work your way into this process, and again, spermidine's important, and so being careful is important.
Okay, so I want to go back to something that you'd said with autophagy. It's either upregulated or it's not. So can you get to a higher state of autophagy if you're taking more spermidine?
If your diet is lacking spermidine, it's the data, the information is pretty clear that as spermidine levels drop, autophagy levels drop. It's key in that process. So listen, the extent of that thought experiment is, even if I completely fast, if I'm fasted for a week but low spermidine, do I get autophagy? We don't know yet. I mean, autophagy is relatively difficult to measure. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have the simple measure here. We know you go into ketosis. We know we can measure some other things that are proxy measures, but we're still working on that. Again, this is one of the exciting parts of being part of a company that's got a research lab in Austria doing the best research in the world on this. And it's certainly fun. We don't know that yet. We know that it's a key molecule. We know as you increase it, autophagy increases. If someone wants to learn about spermidine, I always refer them to there's a review paper in Cell called Spermidine in Health and Disease. It's a scientific paper. It's a review paper, but it's very good in the basic understanding of the molecule, where it comes from, how it's formed, all the different implications of taking it. So I recommend that you go take a look at that. I think on our website, if you go to spermidinelife.us, in our blog section, I think we have written a synopsis of that paper as well. You can find that. But
because it gets confusing, right, Don? Like, some people will say, and as biohackers, they'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to take 2 spermidine at dinner, right? Let's just say, and that's one equivalent for Spermidine Life, right? But then I'm going to take another 2 before bed and see if that's going to increase. You get what I mean? Like, it's like, how can you be that, I'm going to say, ticky-tacky about taking this? And
I don't think you need to. Okay, so we just did a small pilot study looking at blood sugars, blood lipids, inflammatory markers, and quality of life markers. And we did it supplementing with our 6 milligram a day product. We call it Spermidine Life Pro. So we measured blood markers at 0, 15, 30, and 45 days. We supplemented day 1 through day 30. So we saw a dramatic improvement in blood sugar markers, and we saw a dramatic improvement in blood lipid markers. Both of those we were very happy about. Our inflammatory markers were neutral, and we think our study was too small. It was a small pilot study, and that we just didn't have a big enough N to have enough power to really make a claim out of. But the thing that we saw was the improvement that we saw in blood sugar and lipids at 30 days extended at the same rate through 45 days. So 2 weeks after they stopped taking it, there was still benefit there. And that benefit was probably the increased autophagy from the first 30 days of supplementing. So this molecule has a long half-life, really long. It's not like spermidine's going in and hitting a receptor like nicotine or caffeine or something like that. It's going deep in that cell again. And in fact, from a physical standpoint, our customers are telling us 3 to 5 weeks after they started taking it, they noticed their fingernails and their hair. Well, we know from Spermidine and Health and Disease, there's an upregulation of epithelial stem cells. And these are the cells that make your skin, your hair, your nails, the lining of your gut. These are all epithelial cells. And so as those stem cells upregulate, we start to see that. So that's the thing that people notice, and we get testimonials on over and over again.
Yeah, I saw that, Don, myself.
And the hair is my brother busts my chops. My brother's a little younger than I am, and he says you guys should sell a razor with this because the hair on my back is growing so fast when I take it. And I'm like, I'm not using that one, but yeah. So that's the funky thing about this. And again, Sandy, I equate it to a 401k or to an investment account. If you're old enough that you're investing financially in longevity, you might want to start investing nutritionally as well.
Yes, you're speaking my language, Don.
Yeah, so I think that's how you start to look at it. We know, listen, when you take vitamin C in the morning, do you notice it? Probably not. You take enough niacin, you flush, and you notice that. But most micronutrients don't have that immediate response like a glutathione or something like that. And it's, again, this fits in that essential nutrient. But when we look at the diseases of aging, the things, listen, the way you achieve longevity is don't die, right? So you've got to go back and look at the things that are going to kill you. So if you're playing traffic every day, solve that first. Don't take Spermidine, quit playing in traffic. But when you get your safety worked out and you start to get your exercise and the other pieces in, that's when you come in and make sure that you have Spermidine contributing to your stack.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because my husband and I were just talking about that because he was giving me hell about how much I spend on supplements. And I'm like, I'm trying to keep you alive and alive and healthy. It's not just about being alive. It's about being alive and healthy, right?
Yes.
So
that's what we want. I have a really good friend. His name's Ken Ford. He's got a podcast called STEM Talk, by the way. I high recommendation for it. But he says longevity to me is I want to be happy, 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 dead.
Yes, I love it.
And I'm like, okay, I kind of see that. And we want. Listen, you and I again. We were talking about one before we started. Fitness for me. My definition of fitness is the physical capacity to enjoy the life I'm given. My wife and I'm coming to you today from a 42-foot fifth wheel trailer that my wife and I live in. We're looking for a new home. And I think that home will include us drinking our coffee, looking at big mountains. So probably out west, but we're figuring it out. And I want to hike. I want to be that crazy granddad, that crazy great granddad. I'm an old wrestler. I wrestled at a very high level. I still have some skills I can still teach. I want to teach my grandkids and my great grandkids to wrestle. That's my longevity goal. You can't do that in a wheelchair, in a hospital bed, hooked, again, I don't know, whenever I get called out this trip that I'm on, I hope I fell off the edge of the Grand Canyon and I'm enjoying the trip on the way down rather than being stuck in a hospital bed, waiting for the end that way.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful statement. And I would agree with that because I've watched somebody close to me with dementia, and it's not a fun way to go. So
it scares me to death.
Right. So I want to do everything I can to, there's no guarantees in life, but there's a lot we have control over. That's just the fact.
Yeah. And listen, we have examples. Again, my mother passed 2 years ago. She was 85 years old. She was sharp as a tack right to the very end. Again, she had cancer 3 times. The 3rd time got her. But she was cognitively right on her game. My grandmother, before she passed, again, I remember sitting on her front porch in North Carolina when she was 89 years old and we're actually having a conversation about Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Politically she was sharp as a tack. I want that.
Me too.
And when you look at things like Alzheimer's, when you look at the dementia-related diseases, I think this is the biggest promise for Spermidine. Don't exercise to lose weight. Exercise to stimulate autophagy and stay sharp. Don't diet or don't eat again, I don't particularly care for that term diet, but your eating plan that you put together needs to be nutrient dense, not to be skinny, but to be sharp. Get your sleep to be sharp, get light on your skin to be sharp. We don't die when we run out of time. We die when we run out of energy. Energy is a mitochondrial driven process. Exercise, nutrient dense food, sleep, light are all mitochondrial drivers. Autophagy cleans up the old mitochondria so the new mitochondria can reproduce and be strong and create energy. This is the value of these things that we do in lifestyle, and it's got nothing to do with the size of your pants.
Yeah. So I just want to get back to the things that you see from autophagy. We talked about hair, eyelashes, nails.
Mm-hmm.
What about if you don't see anything? Does that mean it's not working, or does that mean you maybe need more spermidine than the average person? Because we really, we're just guesstimating 1 milligram a day, right?
Well, we actually think it's higher than that at this point. So I don't know if you've seen this, Sandy, but we have just raised our base product from 1 milligram to 2 milligrams a day.
Okay.
So Spermidine Plus, it's our introductory product, is now 2 milligrams. We're launching a 3 milligram product, and we sell a 6 milligram product through our physician network.
Okay.
And we are really starting to lean towards one's not a day. We started selling 1 milligram a day because that's what the European Union said we could.
Right.
When you look at the research, and I don't know if you've looked at the Smart Age research. The Smart Age research came out. There was some interesting stuff there, some hippocampal thickness stuff, and it was really positive. But when we look at the big health effect, we think we're leaning that it's probably going to be a little higher than 1 milligram a day.
Okay. And then what about those people who don't feel anything and they're like, I don't know, I don't feel anything, I don't see anything, so why am I taking this? I know we talked about vitamin C. We did say you don't always feel vitamin C, but
vitamin C, vitamin D.
Right,
we know how important vitamin D is. You take it, Well, I think my immune system's better. I may not get as sick. I mean, it's the absence of a presence. It's okay. I didn't get sick, so my vitamin D levels are okay. This is that challenge that we work in. I mean, there's no doubt that when we exercise, we get endorphins, we get anandamide, we get feedback reinforcing that behavior. So we love that. At some point in time, as a consumer and as a human, you've got to sit down and say, okay, what is putting $5 a month into my retirement account? I may not see it, but down the road, it pays benefit with compounding interest. This is part of what's going on. And like I said, when you look at, when we know the science is clear, the absence of spermidine leads to the absence of autophagy. The absence of autophagy leads to inflammation and all those inflammatory diseases that will kill you between ages 60 and 90. So it's that associative property of mathematics. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. You have to use that along the way sometimes.
Yeah. So you can basically, for those of you who do say that you don't feel anything or don't see anything, you can rest assured that it's doing the work under the hood.
Well, you know what? We had a doctor, Sandy, down in Dallas, Texas, and she did this really cool test. She just brushed her hair every day, and at the end of the week, she looked at how much hair was in her brush. She started taking spermidine, and it was cut dramatically. So we do know that, again, that epithelial stem cell upregulation will lead to hair follicles. We know there's a process there, and she was able to see it. Listen, we don't have the cool keto mojo ability to stick your finger and measure, beta hydroxybutyrate or whatever. We don't have that yet, but the science is solid on this stuff. And, it's a decision that you make. I mean, this is a consumer decision.
Right. And we still don't have the method in which we can test autophagy. So, right.
I wish we did,
I know.
And the thing about spermidine that's so challenging is that you actually don't want spermidine in your serums. Spermidine, when it's all working, is in the tissue. So when you take spermidine and it circulates, it should go right into the tissue. If spermidine's building up in your serums, there might be a problem there that you have to take a look at. So we can't do a blood test for it, is what I'm saying. It's one of those harder ones. We're continuing to work on this. I'll tell you, this is a regular discussion for us in our science committee. I'm waiting for someone to come back and give me some as a proxy measure. If our ketones are this, what do we think the autophagy level is? No one's done that study yet, so we've got to get that, but that's what we're waiting on.
In terms of gut health, like what if somebody has really, really poor gut health? Is the absorption something that they should think about? Like, will they be able to absorb it?
We think will help that.
Okay.
When you take a look at gut health, we think that as you contribute spermidine into the process, the flora and the fauna actually respond. Now, I also think it's important to have a good pre-probiotic and go after gut health. I think that's part of, if your gut's a problem, listen, we have to fix that. Now, we were talking, I was at a conference in Austin this weekend and saw one of the better gut health presentations I've seen in a long time. And gut health is kind of elusive. Listen, all the good stuff, when you're on the bleeding edge of science, there's a lot of things that are somewhat elusive. Gut health is there. We're not exactly sure what the pre-probiotic, at least I'm not exactly sure. I know it's important. I've made my choices based on what's in the market. And I believe I'm healthier because of that. I know that when I'm using spermidine, I've seen other phenotypic changes like this that would be associated with improved autophagy. But back to the original question, we don't have that simple marker yet. I wish we did. But the science is still solid.
Okay, so how should somebody take it? Like, do they take it at dinner? Do they take it during the day? Like, what's the best way to take it?
we don't have evidence that taking it at one time or another creates a difference.
Okay.
But we do have a recommendation that when you're dealing with molecules like spermidine, a little bit of fat helps these molecules cross the gut. Now, spermidine actually goes into the gut and feeds the microfauna and flora, and then goes ahead and which upregulates spermidine production. I mean, that's where a big chunk of your spermidine comes from, is from gut micro. But so listen, I think you want to make it simple. Okay, figure out when it fits in your diet. If you have to pick, we recommend that you pick the last meal of the day and take it then.
Okay.
A little bit of fat there, take it then. I don't want you to be manic over this. Oh, I didn't take it, so I can't take it, this and that. No, just, in fact, I was talking to one of our customers, and I like pulsing nutrients from time to time. Instead of having, a basal level, do I have a ton of evidence that it makes a huge difference? No. Theoretically, it makes sense to pulse, right? So she would use 3 milligrams on Sunday, nothing on Monday, 2 grams on Tuesday, nothing on Thursday, but she would eventually work her way to 1 milligram to 7 milligrams a week. She's since doubled that. She's at 14 milligrams a week, but she's loading it at different times throughout the week. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you want to take it in the morning, that's fine. Again, that study that we did, that pilot study that we did, looking at the benefit extending for 14 days beyond the last supplementation, tells you this is working down deep in the cell. This isn't, like I said, it's not landing on a receptor in your nervous system, triggering, some kind of a change there. That's not what's happening. This is working down deep in the cell, down in and driving that autophagy process. So the half-life on that molecule is going to be really, really long.
Okay, that is huge. What
Probably
you
weeks.
said.
Probably weeks, not days, not hours, weeks.
I'll tell you why this is huge, what you just said, because I have heard, I hear a lot of things from
Sure.
clients, from followers, and they say they can't afford it, right? It's a big thing, because spermidine, it's not cheap, but it does so much. And that's why you kind of have to weigh, all right, do I take this or do I spend my money here? It's like, do I buy that $5 latte at Starbucks, or do I save my money so that I can take this molecule? But you said something there that's really, really important, Dawn, is that you can kind of build up that autophagy, take that molecule, and then do the pulsing, right? And that would maybe save you a little bit of money.
Yeah, first of all, we're working hard to improve the value of our product. And in fact, we just doubled the amount of spermidine in our basic products. So what was called Spermidine Life is now called Spermidine Life Plus. Instead of being 1 milligram a day, it's 2 milligrams a day.
Right.
So we were able to improve our extraction process to not only get more in the capsule, but also put it in the capsule at a low cost that we're able to pass on. We're doubling the amount
Beautiful.
of spermidine at no additional cost. Okay.
Beautiful.
So and we're getting ready. So literally we're getting ready to, by the time this podcast, we will have a 3 milligram a day product. Now that product is not in a capsule anymore. Once we get beyond 2 milligrams, we can't really get it into a capsule. So we put it into a sachet that you mix with water and drink. Our 6 milligram product is in that well. So, if someone's looking at this, if you look online, you can see our 6 milligram that you can buy in a 10-day package. We have doctors that are recommending 6 milligrams a day for a month and then come off. So we're working with really smart docs to really understand the best way to do this. But Sandy, there's so much variation. There's variation between you and I as it relates to, well, first of all, genetically, You're a woman, I'm a man. There's a huge difference there. You're in Canada, I'm down in the southern United States right now. There's a change in light, there's a change in things. You've got one background, I've got another. I use the statement, in the absence of extinction, there is no evolution, there's only diversity. So it's fair to, with all the we've not had a human extinction event for a really, really long time. So it's fair to say we have enough diversity that someone can thrive being carnivore and someone else can thrive being vegetarian.
True.
And one is not right for all. You've got to figure out your N of one. And this is working our way, and what you have to invest in this, and we're working hard to lower the price. So our 1 milligram product, we think is going to, we don't have this done yet. It's literally, we're working on this now. We're going to put it out there at another steep discount. But we're working hard to lower the cost of the product. Again, we just doubled our concentration and held the price the same. And we're coming to market with a 3 and a 6. And when you look at Spermidine per dollar invested, our 6 milligram product is about a third cheaper than our 2 milligram product. Okay. So, if you wanted to buy the 6 and use it every third day, you get about a 1/3 discount buying it that way.
Okay, that's good. I like that you have multiple options, Don. Now, I have to ask this because I find this so interesting, and you probably will too. People will be like, oh, I'll take 2 extra Spermidine and that's going to improve my deep sleep tonight. I'm like, I don't think the body works that way. And so I've heard
that's a receptor thing. As
right.
You upregulate autophagy, your deep sleep will improve.
Right,
okay?
But that's over a period of time. It doesn't happen in one night.
Right. We have in fact, we've had a lot of clients send us their HRV data. So as your nighttime sleep improves, HRV is a measurement of stress. It's an overall measurement of stress. If someone has an Oura ring or a BioStrap or something like that, and they're measuring HRV accurately, we've had a lot of people start taking Spermidine Life, and they see a bump in their HRV. And at first I thought, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. But if you think about stress, if you think about your cells under stress, your body under stress, your body doesn't know the difference whether it's a lion that walked around the door or it's a paper lion that's keeping you up at night that's coming from Revenue Canada or the IRS or something like that. So stress is stress. You resolve stress with recovery. Sleep is the ultimate recovery tool. Cannot replace it. So as you improve autophagy, you lower inflammation, you lower pain, you improve sleep, and you improve deep sleep. This was one of my favorite parts about Spermidine when I started doing it, was the lucid dreaming that I got. And I love that stuff. But so we saw improvement in sleep. We've got some other stuff that we're working on that plays in that role too, but it takes a little while for it to come on. And again, it's that upregulated autophagy. Yeah.
No, I find that really interesting when you were talking about the whole N of one and stressors, even like, I could have had an argument with my spouse right before bed, and that's going to affect my sleep, right? Like there's just so many factors that are constantly moving, right? So
and ultimately, so I talked about my 4 rocks: movement, nutrient dense food, sleep, and light. Those all go in a jar. So if and this comes from a talk that I do. I don't know if you remember Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes, yeah.
Great book. And in that book, he talks about a demonstration where someone puts a jar on stage and they put big rocks in it and says, what's going on? And the audience says, well, the jar is full when the rock got to the top. And then he takes and puts gravel in around the rocks. And he puts sand in the gravel. And then he puts. So I love that demonstration, and especially in a biohacking space. But here's the problem. If you put the gravel and the sand and the water in first, there's no room for the big rocks.
Right.
You've got to get the big rocks in first. And that's where I come from: movement, nutrient dense food, sleep, and light. But the jar is of purpose. We call the jar purpose. You have to have something to wake up. We have a lot of environmental forces that are working against our evolutionary nature. We evolved as Homo sapiens to adapt to change. That's why we outperformed Neanderthals. We adapted to change better. Well, now we live in environments that don't force us to change. We have temperature controlled environments. We don't have to climb mountains to get our food. We don't have to work to get our food. We don't have to, we have lights that create dirty light at night before we go to bed. We don't get up in the morning and get that light from the sun, that angle that triggers the pineal gland that says, let's go ahead and start to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. So evolutionarily, we're mismatched with our environment right now. So we have to have purpose. We have to have a reason to wake up and say, okay, I need to work against the environment. I need to put these pieces in. I need to invest. That's why you see a sauna over my shoulder and a red light panel over this shoulder. It's important to us, so we invested in this. It's part of our lifestyle. And I think this is where this goes to the nutrient dense. I know I can't find spermidine rich foods in the supermarket. You know what? So I have to supplement it. As much light as I want to get on my skin, I probably need a little bit more vitamin D, so I supplement it. I still work to get light on my skin, because listen, when my skin turns brown, I feel great. My skin loves melanin. My body loves melanin. I don't burn. I don't burn my cells. I simply trigger a process to get them working the way they're supposed to. And this is how that process works. So, it's, listen, it's that N of one, and you've got to own it, because there's not a doctor out there good enough. I'm looking forward to medicine. My doctor, I sent him a note one time. We're on a good enough relationship that we text. And I said, when am I going to come to your office and you're going to review my HRV and my CGM data and not just look at a lab 3 times a year? And I love my doc. He's a really smart guy, but he has not made the move on this yet. I predict by the next decade, with the way technology is working, your doctor will review this data before they walk into the room. They're going to look at your HRV. They're going to see your stress levels, and we're going to be able to have a good discussion about trauma. They're going to look at your CGM data and say, when we see CGM data go off the rails, there was probably some kind of a traumatic experience that triggered that's giving you this carbohydrate desire, because that's just a stress response. They're going to look and see, what does my exercise data say? How am I managing this? This is where healthcare lies. This is where health performance lies. And I'm looking forward to the continued evolution of that market.
And that's actually true healthcare versus sick care. We hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And really, I don't know, it would be nice to get to that, but I don't know. I feel like
we don't have a choice. Yeah. We have to get to that. I mean, we don't have, listen, and again, we're now stepping into a different place. I don't think we have a healthcare system. We have an illness treatment reimbursement system. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you have an illness, you have a symptom, they treat it, and we have financing to be able to get that treatment done. We don't have anybody. If you want to do performance, you've got to do it on your own. And you work with people like you and people like me to give this kind of guidance, this coaching. It's not a doctor, it's coaching, but certainly you can create those biofeedback, biohacking, biotech tools. That's the great thing about the time that we live in. We're watching Apple go off the edge. I don't think their device is good enough yet for HRV. There's issues that go with that. But, it's pretty cool, the platform that they've created, and the fact that their platform can aggregate my HRV measurement with my ketone measurement, with my CGM measurement, with my exercise. That's pretty cool. And I think that's where healthcare and performance, listen, we can get there now. The system just hasn't caught up yet.
It hasn't. But you know what? I say this all the time. It's just like all of these individuals in the holistic health space, we were all talking about vitamin D well before physicians even mentioned it.
Right.
And still now in Canada is a socialized healthcare system, but you still have to pay for vitamin D, even though it's supposed to be like, why isn't it part of my regular blood work? You guys are talking about it anyway.
Right.
Like you said, that's a whole other discussion, and I love chatting about all this with you. I mean, this has been a great talk, and I have to ask you one more question because you know so much about HRV. So I have an Aura ring, I have a BioStrap. My husband had a Whoop, and then he switched to BioStrap. HRV.
I would agree with that switch.
Yeah, HRV is honestly, Don, it's almost like my fingers, you can't measure it accurately through the ring. It's like I'm always half dead with my HRV on my Aura ring, but my BioStrap, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. So why just, it's a little off topic, but it's an interesting topic.
So my typical recommendation, and I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have an endorsement with any of these companies. Aura Ring for me has been the most accurate tool I can find, because we've done a lot of work of comparing it to wired EKG and looking at other platforms. Aura Ring is a great performer. BioStrap is very good. I mean, it's right there with it. There will be some differentiation in algorithms. There'll be some differentiation in the ability to measure. You know what? That's why we have multiple tools. In the same way, you may drive a Ford and I drive a Chevy. There are different tools that fit at different levels. The trick is getting to that point and getting a deep understanding. For instance, when you have a poor HRV measurement, what are you doing, number one? And number two, is that showing a response? One of the most effective treatments for HRV we had for our athletes was float tanks, sensory deprivation floating. Move the needle for my guys. We floated a wrestling team 140 times in one season. That's how effective it was. And so we're now working on some supplements. In fact, if you watch the Longevity Labs page, you're going, and depending on when this launches, you're going to see the launch of this new product that we have called HRV Plus that we've developed. But there are tools. There's a great company from out in California that's called HeartMath. Love these.
I interviewed them.
Love HeartMath. That inner balance is a wonderful tool, not just for someone working on longevity. It's a focused, deliberative, meditative environment. I taught meditation to my college wrestlers. We taught them not only to use breath to meditate, but we used HeartMath and we used things like Headspace to teach these kids how to get focused, get present, and it yielded performance improvement, measurable performance improvement. So these are the kind of things, but you've got to get an indicator that works for you. I think if you're playing with BioStrap or Aura, you're in a really good place. The team at Elite HRV, there's a website that's called Elite HRV. They've got a device that measures through the phone. Love their tech, love their company. There's another guy out, it's called Morpheus. It's Joel Jameson's program. Great science. Everyone that I've talked about are great scientists that started a company. They're not a company that's tried to commercialize the science. And so far, that's the combination I see works really well.
I'm really excited to try your new product. When is that?
HRV Plus.
Yeah, when, Don?
We expect to launch Monday. Literally, things are shipping to warehouses and we're waiting for indication that it's checked in. But yeah, if you go to modemethod.com, that's a brand that we're building for this performance space. HRV Plus. If you'll go to modemethod.com and fill out and put your email in, we'll send you samples. Mode Method HRV Plus is something that hits receptors. It's something that you'll feel that day. You'll feel that night. The sleep has been rock star quality sleep.
Okay, very excited. Well, by the time this comes out, it will be well underway. But is there anything else that maybe we didn't touch on that you want to summarize? Because we're almost at an hour.
No, I think, listen, I really appreciate the opportunity, Sandy. I mean, we've exchanged emails, we've talked. It's been great getting to know you. If any of your listeners have questions, if you'll go to spermidinelife.us, there's a chat there. If they have questions, we have a great customer service group. If you've got a question for me, I'm Don Moxley in most of the social media platforms. So if you want to reach out to me, let me know. Facebook's my weakest. I don't spend a lot of time there. But you can DM me on Instagram or Twitter, as long as Twitter still exists, before it burns down. But we're figuring that out. But yeah, reach out to us, let us know, and we're here to help.
Yes, and I do have a discount code for everybody who's listening. It is Sandy K20, and that's pretty good discount. So definitely check it out. Now, thank you so much for your time, Dawn. I love chatting with you.
Well, I've enjoyed it myself, and I consider it a privilege for your listeners to give us the time. So thank you. I am very grateful.
Thanks, Dawn. Okay, I hit stop on, I record my audio separate. Let me just mention that. I think that was really good.
Good. Did you see my coffee delivery come halfway through the thing? Did you hear
No,
that?
I didn't even notice.
My wife snuck around the corner and handed me my coffee. I'm like, yes, this is perfect.
No, I love it. I know. And it was like, you showed it as soon as I was saying people spending all that money on Starbucks.
Yeah.
That was
we have a straight up addiction in our household. So and we embrace it.
Hey, everybody's got my husband's a smoker, and